story that I am going to read is entitled The Necklace. It is a 1988 story by a French writer named Guy de Maupassant. He is known for ironic ending. You sit back and relax and please read with me.
She was one of those pretty and charming girls born, as if by an error of fate, into a family of clerks. She had no dowry, no expectations, no means of becoming known, understood, loved, or wedded by a man of wealth and distinction. And so, she let herself be married to a minor official at the Ministry of Education. She dressed plainly, because she had never been able to afford anything better, but she was unhappy, as if she had once been wealthy. Women don't belong to a caste or class. Their beauty, grace, and natural charm take the place of birth and family. Natural delicacy, instinctive elegance, and a quick wit determine their place in society, and to make the daughters of commoners the equals of the very finest ladies. With endlessly feeling she was entitled to all the delicacies and luxuries of life. She suffered because of the poorness of her house, as she looked at the dirty walls, the worn-out chairs, and the ugly curtains. All this that other women of her class would not have even noticed, tormented her and made her resentful. The sight of the little Breton girl who did her housework filled her with terrible regrets and hopeless fantasies. She dreamed of silent antechambers hung with oriental tapestries, lit from above by torches in bronze holders, while two tall footmen in lee-length breeches napped in huge armchairs, sleepy from his stove's oppressive warmth. She dreamed of vast living rooms furnished in rare old silks, elegant furniture loaded with priceless ornaments, and inviting smaller rooms, perfumed, made for afternoon chat with close friends, famous, sought-after men, who all women envy and desire. Sat down to dinner at a round table covered with a 3-day-old cloth opposite her husband, who, lifting the lid of the soup, shouted excitedly, "Ah! Beef stew! What could be better?" She dreamed of fine dinners, of shining silverwares, of tapestries which peopled the walls, which figures from another time, and strange beards in fairy forest. She dreamed of delicious dishes, served in wonderful plates, of whispered gallantries listened to, with an inscrutable smile as one ate the pink flesh of a trout, of the wings of a quail. Yes, no jewels, nothing. These were the only things she loved. She felt she was made for them alone. She wanted so much to charm, to be envied, to be desired and sought after. She had a rich friend, former schoolmate of the convent, whom she no longer wanted to visit because she suffered so much when she came home. For whole days afterwards, she would weep with sorrow, regret, despair, and misery. One evening, her husband came home with an air of triumph, holding a large envelope in his hand. "Look," he said, "there's something for you." She tore open the paper and drew out a card on which was printed in the words, "The Ministry of Education and Madame Georges Ramponneau request the pleasure of Mr. and Madame Loisa's company of the Ministry on the evening of Monday, January 18th. Instead of being delighted, as her husband had hoped, she threw the invitation to the table resentfully and muttered, "What do you want me to do with that?" "But my dear, I thought you would be pleased. We never go out, and it would be such a lovely occasion. I had awfully trouble getting it." Everyone wants to go. It's very exclusive. And they're not giving many invitations to clerks. The whole ministry will be there. She stared at him angrily and said impatiently, "And what do you expect me to wear if I go?" He hadn't thought of that. He stammered. "Why, the dress you go to the theater in. It seems very nice to me." He stopped, stunned, distressed to see his wife crying. Two large tears ran slowly from the corners of her eye towards the corner of her mouth. He stuttered. "What's the matter? What's the matter?" With a great effort, she overcame her grief and replied in a calm voice as she wiped her wet cheeks. "Nothing. Only I have no dress, so I can't go to this party. Give your invitation to our friend whose wife has a better clothes than I do." He was distraught, but tried again. "Let's see, Matilde. How much would a suitable dress cost? One which you could use again on a simple occasion. Something very simple?" She thought for a moment, computing the cost, and also wondering what amount she could ask for without immediately a refusal and an alarmed exclamation from a thrifty clerk. At last, she answered hesitantly, "I don't know exactly, but I think I could do it with 400 francs. He turned a little pale because he had been saving the exact amount to buy a gun and treat himself to a hunting trip the following summer in the country near Nanterre. With a few friends, he went lark shooting there on Sundays. However, he said, "Very well, I can give you 400 francs, but try to get a really beautiful dress." The day of the party drew near, and Madame Loisel seemed sad, restless, anxious. Her dress was ready. However, one evening her husband said to her, "What's the matter? You've been acting strange these last few days." She replied, "I'm upset that I have no jewels. Not a single stone to wear. I will look cheap. I would almost rather not to go to the party." "You could wear flowers," he said. "They are very fashionable at this time of the year. For 10 francs you could get 2 or 3 magnificent roses." She was not convinced. "No, there is nothing more humiliating than looking poor in the middle of rich women." "How stupid you are!" her husband cried. "Go and see your friend Madame Forestier and ask her to lend some jewels. You know her very well for that." She uttered a cry of joy. "Of course, I had not thought of that." The next day, she went to her friend's house and told her of her distress. Madame Forestier went to her mirrored wardrobe, took out a large box, brought it back, opened it, and said to Madame Loisel, "Choose, my dear." First, she saw some bracelets, then a pearl necklace, then a gold Venetian cross set with precious stones of exquisite craftsmanship. She tried on the jewelry in the mirror, hesitated, could not bear to part with them, to give them back. She kept asking, "You have nothing else?" "But why, yes, but I don't know what you like." Suddenly, she discovered in a black satin vase a superb diamond necklace, and her heart began to beat with an uncontrolled desire. Her hands trembled as she took it. She fastened it around her neck, over her high-necked dress, and stood lost in ecstasy as she looked at herself. Then she asked anxiously, hesitating, "Would you lend me just this?" "Oh yes, of course." She threw her arms around her friend's neck, embraced her rapturously, then fled with her treasure. The day of the party arrived. Madame Loisel was a success. She was prettier than all the other women, elegant, gracious, smiling, and full of joy. All the men stared at her, asked her name, tried to be introduced. All the cabinet officials wanted to waltz with her. The minister noticed her. She danced wildly, with passion, drunk on pleasure, forgetting everything in the triumph of her beauty, in the glory of her success, in a sort of cloud of happiness, made up of all this respect, all this admiration, all these awakened desires, all that sense of triumph that is so sweet to a woman's heart. She left at about 4 o'clock in the morning. Her husband had been dozing since midnight in the deserted anteroom with 3 other gentlemen whose wives were having a good time. He threw over her shoulders the clothes he had been brought for her to go outside in, the modest clothes of an ordinary life whose poverty contrasted sharply with the elegance of the ball dress. She felt this and wanted to run away, so she wouldn't be noticed by other women who were wrapping themselves in expensive furs. Loisel held her back. "Wait a moment, you'll catch a cold outside. I'll go and find a cab." She would not listen to him and ran down the stairs. When they were finally in the street, they could not find a cab and began to look for one, shouting at the cabman they saw passing in the distance. They walked down towards the sign in despair, shivering with cold. At last, they found on the quay one of those all-night cabs that one sees in Paris only after dark, as if they were ashamed to show their shabbiness during the day. They were dropped off at their door in Rue des Martyrs and sadly walked up the steps to their apartment. It was all over for her, and he was remembering that he had to be back at his office at 10 o'clock. The mirror. She took off her clothes around her shoulders, taking a final look at herself in all her glory. But suddenly she uttered a cry. She no longer had the necklace around her neck. "What is the matter?" asked her husband, already half undressed. She turned towards him, panic-stricken. I no longer have Madame Forrester's necklace." He stood up distraught. "What? How? That's impossible." They looked in the folds of her dress, in the folds of the cloak, in her pockets, everywhere, but they could not find it. "Are you sure you still had it on when you left at the ball?" he asked. "Yes, I touched it in the hall of the ministry. But if you had lost it in the street, we would have heard it fall. It must be in the cab." "Yes, that's probably it. Did you take his number?" "No." "And you didn't notice it?" "No." They stared at each other, stunned. At last, Loisel put his clothes on again. "I'm going back," he said. "Over the whole route we walked. See if I can find it." He left. She remained in her ball dress all evening, without the strength to go to bed, sitting on a chair with no fire, her mind blank. Her husband returned at about 7 o'clock. He had found nothing. He went to the police, to the newspapers to offer a reward, to the cab companies. Everywhere in the teeniest glimmer of hope led him. She waited all day in the same state of blank despair from before his frightful disaster. Evening, a hollow, pale figure. He had found nothing. "You must write to your friend," he said. Tell her you have broken the clasp of her necklace and that you are having it mended. It will give us time to look some more." She wrote as he dictated. At the end of 1 week, they had lost all hope. And Loisel, who had aged 5 years, declared, "We must consider how to replace this jewel." The next day, they took the box which had held it and went to the jeweler whose name they found inside. He consulted his books. "It was not I, madame, who sold the necklace. I must simply have supplied the case." And so they went from jeweler to jeweler, looking for a necklace like the other one, consulting their memories, both sick with grief and anguish. In a shop at the Place Royal, they found a string of diamonds which seemed to be exactly what they were looking for. It was worth 40,000 francs. They could have it for 36,000. So they begged the jeweler not to sell it for 3 days, and then made an arrangement that he would take it back for 34,000 francs if the other necklace was found before the end of February. Loisel had 18,000 francs, which her father had left him. He would borrow the rest. And she did borrow, asking from 1,000 francs from one man, 500 from another, 5 louis here, 3 louis there. She gave notes, made ruinous agreements, dealt with usurers, with every type of money lender. She compromised the rest of her life, raised signing notes without her knowing if she could ever honor them, and terrified with the anguish still to come by the black misery about to fall on her, by the prospect of every physical privation and every moral torture she was about to suffer. She went to get the new necklace and laid down on the jeweler's counter 36,000 francs. Madame Forrester said coldly, "You should have returned it sooner. I might have needed it." To the relief of her friend, she did not open the case. If she had detected the substitution, what would she have thought? What would she have said? What would she have taken her friend for a thief? From then on, Madame Loisel knew the horrible life of the very poor. But she played her part heroically. The dreadful debt must be paid. She would pay it. They would dismiss her maid. They changed their lodging. They rented the garret under that roof. The odious labors of the kitchen. She washed the dishes, staining her rosy nails on greasy pots and bottoms of pans. She washed the dirty linen, the shirts and the dishcloths which she hung to dry on a line. She carried the garbage down to the street every morning and carried up the water, stopping at each landing to catch her breath. And she dressed like a commoner. She went to the fruiterers, the grocers, the butchers, her basket on her arm, bargaining, insulted, fighting over every miserable sou. Each month, they have to pay some notes, renew others, get more time. Her husband worked every evening, doing accounts for a tradesman, and often late into the night. He sat copying a manuscript at 5 sous a page. And this life lasted for 10 years. At the end of 10 years, they had paid off everything at usurers' rates and with the accumulations of compound interest. Madame Loisel looked old now. She had become strong, hard and rough like all women of impoverished households, with hair half-combed, with skirts awry and reddened hands. She took loudly as she washed the floor with great swishes of water. But sometimes, when her husband was at the office, she sat down near the window and thought of that evening of the ball so long time ago. She had been so beautiful and so admired. What would have happened if she had not lost the necklace? Who knows? Who knows? How strange life is. How fickle. How little is needed for one of the to be ruined or saved. She was walking in the Champs-Élysées to refresh herself after the week's work. Suddenly, she saw a woman walking with a child. It was Madame Forestier, still young, still beautiful, still charming. Madame Loisel felt emotional. Should she speak to her? Yes, of course. And now that she had paid, she would tell her at all. Why not? She went up to her. Good morning, John. The other, astonished to be addressed so familiarly by this common woman, did not recognize her. She stammered. But madame, I don't know. You must have made a mistake. No, I am Mathilde Loisel. Her friend uttered a cry. Oh, my poor Mathilde! How you have changed! Yes, I have some hard times too since I last saw you, and many miseries, and all because of you. Me? How can that be? You remember the diamond necklace that you lent me to wear to the ministry party? Yes, well, I lost it. What do you mean? You brought it back? I brought you back another exactly like it, and it has not taken us 10 years to pay for it. It wasn't easy for us. We had very little, but at last, it's over, and I'm very glad. Madame Forster was stunned. You say that you bought a diamond necklace to replace mine? Yes, you didn't notice that? They were very similar. And she smiled with proud and innocent pleasure. Madame Forster deeply moved and took both her hands. Oh, my poor Mathilde! Why, my necklace was paste. It was worth at most only 500 francs.